speed up the rendering of the skin, I decided to set up the positions of the lights, but I'm going to talk about my lighting settings and my thought process behind it all. So I don't know if you've all watched Game of Thrones, but I decided to create a certain scene. So careful of spoilers if you haven't watched it or in the process, but I decided to create Lord Varys' death scene. So I'm just going to pull up my pure ref so you can see the lights setup I wanted to go for. So I really like the death scene of Lord Varys because of the lighting and the atmosphere. So I decided to go with that sort of lighting. So as you can see, this is like his death scene. It's really dark, so I decided to sort of replicate it, but have a bit more light so it doesn't look too dark. I wanted my skin details to pop a bit more. So I decided to go with a 2-point light setup with a rim light at the back of his ears to add a bit more contrast. So with that being said, I'm just going to get started and show you just one light for now, my setup for that one light. Then I'm going to apply the displacement map to the skin, then apply 2 lights so you can sort of see my thinking and how I go about it. So whenever I'm rendering, I'm constantly tweaking the lights and changing the settings for the displacement. It's all a process. So with this light, I set the exposure. So this is the left rim light. I decided to set the exposure to 13. So feel free to mess around with the lights how you feel to get different effects with the skin, but I decided to go for the exposure 13. I use color temperature as well. The color temperature basically affects how cold or how warm the lights are. So this is 13 and the color temperature I set it to about 4934. Okay, so I've basically docked my render view over there, so I'm just going to pick that. So if you hit play, you can see the sort of warm lighting. So that was my first light. So what I did was add a first light to just have a lot of contrast. Then I'm going to apply the displacement map so you can see where the displacement is applied. Then I'll start adding the other light so you can see how everything just comes together. So I'm just going to pause that, go to hypershade. So whenever I create a displacement map, whenever you create a displacement map, what you want to do is hit tab, search for displacement, click on displacement. So I tend to delete this blue bit and I apply the displacement to displacement shader. Then next thing we want to do is, I don't know if you guys have, well, hopefully you've watched the other tutorials, but I basically created a pure ref on creating displacements. So I'm just going to load that up with my pure ref. Okay, displacement map stuff. So this was obviously the ZBrush setup for it. I'm sure you guys have gone through that. So we're going to start off in step 2. So the first thing we want to do for step 2 is click on the head. Okay, seems like I've already done that, but it's no harm like going through it again. So subdivision cap lock clock, I set that to 3, so that basically subdivides the model in render time. So I set that to 3, so I'm going to subdivide it 3 times. I put smooth tangents on. Then I enable auto bump. So auto bump just makes it's sort of like a normal map, so it doesn't always have to subdivide certain areas to apply that detail. It will just sort of make it look, sort of fake it kind of. So that's my settings for the head. We're going to go to step 3, which is, I think, is personally is like a really important part for setting up a displacement map. Okay, so what I'm going to do is search for, actually not the search, I'm going to click here, displacement shader, click here, it's going to pop up with another window, hit file, then the file I want to make sure, well let me apply the displacement first. Okay, so let me move this out the way. So the textures are located in project files, Maya, varies, source, images. So the file you want to be looking for is displacement over here. You see the skin. So hit open. So let's look at settings. So first thing you want to do is set to raw. It's basically, I think what it does is just turn it to like a black and white map. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then color balance. This always throws a lot of people off when you don't click alpha as luminance. Whenever I don't check this, my displacement always ends up looking bloated. So I always check this. So that should be it done. So let me just close this because we don't need this anymore. Well, feel free because I'm going to save it until the project files. Okay, so render view. If we hit play, we should have no issues and it should just come through. Yeah, it did. So I don't know about you, but I wasn't really satisfied with the displacement firsthand. So what I did was apply a range to add more contrast to the displacement, to increase the displacement map basically. So if you hit tab and search for AI range, so I basically want to amplify the range to make it a lot more stronger. So I add a range in between here. So you're gonna put the out color to input, then output of this to red to that. So make sure it's red going in there. Okay, so this I set to 0.7, but you know what, I'm gonna go lower. Well, I'm just gonna mess around with it so you can see what it's actually doing. Let's just set that to 0.5 for now. Let's see what it does. Okay, you can see it's making your displacement map a lot stronger, but I ended up setting it to 0.7, so it's a lot more subtle. See? Better than the first displacement map. Okay, so now I'm just gonna apply different lights so you can see it all sort of coming together. So I'm gonna add the rim light for the ears. So for that, I set the exposure to 11 and I didn't add a temperature for it. So if you just hit render, you should see back a bit more. See? But once we add the SSS, you're going to see this bit pops a lot more. Okay, so for the final light, I set the exposure to, so that's a light. Set that to 8.2. And the temperature, just take that on and leave it as default. It should just come out as blue. So that's the lighting setup I had for him. Okay, so guys, we're going to be talking about the roughness and specular now. So the first thing I want to do is decrease the roughness for the skin. So you can see it's a lot more shiny and uniform. So when you have a map input for the roughness value and specular, it basically controls how the skin reacts to light, which makes it in turn look a bit more realistic. So the first map I'm going to be working with is the roughness map. The roughness map, you basically tell it what part of the skin you want to be shiny and what part you don't want it to be shiny, so it's sort of like a glossy map. Then we're going to be also putting a map into the weight, which basically you tell the skin which part you want light to affect the skin and which part you don't want to affect the skin. So let's start off with the first thing I want to do actually is just turn off this temperature for this light. It's kind of getting distracting. I kind of want you guys to see the whole skin uniformly, the shininess of the skin. Okay, we've got rid of that. So as you can see, I've okay, so you can see the roughness is really high now, set it really low, set it really low. Okay, so you can see the overall glossiness for the head, which is really shiny. So what I want to do now is put in the map. So I'm going to click on roughness, file. So because I exported from Substance Painter, you just the maps you want to set to sRGB. ZBrush you tend to set to raw. So even if it's like a color map, I set it to raw. So just remember Substance Painter file if you want to set it to sRGB. So I'm going to load in the sRGB roughness for the skin, which is that one. You see those are the bits that are going to be really shiny. Okay, soon as I do that, I want to go into the hypershade and put in a range so I can control the contrast of the shininess for the face. So I'm going to hit tab and search for AI range. So connect the out color to input, then out color R to specular roughness. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just let me delete all this. If you don't know how to do this, you can take a snapshot of this. So you can go back and refer to your new render and your old render. So I'm going to set the input max to 0.4. So it should be a bit more subtle and it's not going to be too uniform. So if you play, you see the difference. It's very subtle, but you see it when you compare it. Okay, let's just stop that. So I don't know if you can notice that, but you can see this bit's a lot more shiny, it's a lot more uniform. You can see it's a lot more subtle now, the skin. It's not blowing out as much. Okay, so I tend to take screenshots and go back and forth to see what I like. Okay, so the next map we want to add is the weight. So the weight, I tend to apply it and put the details for the pores, so the pores are darker and the skin's a bit more shiny. So and weight, you want to file, node, sRGB, and you want to get varies specular. It's not going to be too drastic of a change, but so you can see the don't think you can really notice the difference, but it's there. You have to get really like close to be able to see the pores, but I just added that for extra control. So that's the roughness part done for this guy. Stop it here. Okay, so now we're going to get started on the fun part, which is applying the base color to the character. Okay, so I was having a few issues before with the roughness for the skin, so I just want to change a few values, and I want you guys to see the values that I'm changing so we can be on the same page. Okay, so it's basically for the specular and the roughness. Okay, so what we want to do is go to action folder and change this, set this to raw. Make sure it's not on sRGB. I know before I said it needs to be on sRGB, but I've noticed with black and white maps you need to set it to raw. So we're always learning. So just make sure you set that to raw. Okay, so now we want to put in the base color for the character. Also, if you want to have a look at my light values, here they are. So that's the first one, second one, third one. Okay, so all on the same page. Okay, let's plug in the base color. So base color in a file node. Let's arrange this quickly. Boom. Okay, so hate how it doesn't put at the top. Oh well. Okay, just leave that as sRGB because that's a color map. So we want to put a remap HSV. We can control the color and values for our base color. We can do this in Substance, but sometimes I prefer to do it in Maya. So Maya has that flexibility as well. So connect that to base color. So we're just going to mess around with base color first, then we're going to apply the subsurface scattering. So on value, I set this to 0.280. Then the saturation, I brought the select that value to 0.920. Okay, let's give that a render. So it's not going to look great yet because we haven't applied the subsurface. Oh, what have I done there? I applied it to the wrong place. So this color. Yeah. Oh, hasn't got a map. Silly me. Sorry guys. Okay, put in the base color. Then so it's sRGB. Render. So I wanted it to look a bit more saturated and just make it look old, you know. Okay, so that bit's done. We're going to put the SSS to make it look a bit more realistic, but what we're going to do first is I'm going to screenshot this so we can go back and have a look here. Okay. So we're going to add in SSS. So first of all, let's connect to this base color, remap to subsurface color. That's going to be the subsurface color, like it says. Then in subsurface, we're going to put up the weight. Then we're going to put a thickness map. If you don't know what a thickness map is, you can look at my previous video. Basically tells the shader where you want to have more subsurface and less subsurface. So I'm just going to plug in a thickness map to it. Thickness map. I'm going to set that to raw because that's a black and white map. I'm gonna put a range so I can control the value as well. Put out color into import, out color into well, R into subsurface. Set the range max to 1.5. Then we're gonna set this 2.5 for now. Let's just have a look. Make sure this is a random walk, whichever one, random walk 1, random walk 2. But we should put on random walk. Okay. Just gonna hit render. I'm not too sure why this happens when I hit render and my video just sort of pauses. So I'm gonna skip it to when it's finished rendering. Okay, so we're back. I just rendered out a section of the character. So what I'm gonna do now is save a screenshot and go flip between without SSS and with SSS. You can see the difference. So this is with SSS, and you can see the issues we have around the lips. There's not a lot of SSS around the lips. So this is it with SSS. You can see how it pops a lot more. Sorry about that noise. Okay, so you can see the difference between both of them. Okay, so now I'm really happy with the SSS for the skin, but I'm not happy with the skin totally. So what I like to do is add peach fuzz to the skin to make it look a bit more realistic. As you can see, there's nothing really going on around hair, so peach fuzz just adds a little bit of hair to the character. Okay, so you don't have to do this, but I like to do this for my characters. So go to outliner. It's located in fuzz. So basically I just exported a fiber mesh to Maya, and I've placed it on the face. In future videos I'll show how I create this. It's not a hard process, but this tutorial is just mainly focusing on skin. So I'm going to render it again, so I'm going to pause it and get back to it when it's finished rendering. So we're back now, and you can see the little peach fuzz around the face. Just adds a bit more detail. So I'm gonna take that off and save the screenshot, and we're gonna have a look. That's it with peach fuzz, and that's it without. Go back to the ear as well, so you can see with peach fuzz, without peach fuzz. Okay, you can see now there's starting to be a lot of anti-aliasing. So at this point, what I would do is increase the resolution to 4K, then render that back out. Or what you can do is increase the samples in the AA, but I just tend to increase for when I'm doing a final render. I'll just take it up to 4K. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so once you render it out in 4K, you will notice once you zoom out, you can still see a lot of the details refined and retained. Okay, so once you finish rendering it out in 4K, you'll notice once you zoom out, you see a lot of the details still holding together. And when you zoom in, they're still holding together. You can see the hair is still doing that. So what I do is, obviously I'm not going to render it with this line, but I don't know what it's called. Is it a render box? I don't render it without the render box, so I take that off, uncheck it, render it again. Then once it's done, I do a file, save image, well, click that and hit save image. Then I would save it out as a, write out the name or whatever it's called, .png. Then I will take it into Photoshop, then I would begin the compositing. So that's the image in 4K. What I also done was with this image, I go to filter sharpen. I do a smart sharpen, and I sharpen it by 50%. So I've already done that. I'm not going to do it again, but that's what I do. I tend to do with the head. Then I start adding in more layers. So I add in some background to it. I added some smoke effects. Added some grain to it to give it a bit more of a cool portrait look. Then I added a background AO to just bring him in a bit more. And that was it.